I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. Looking for something different for family fun, a night out with friends, or your next team-building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the Haunted Mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Tonight, cloudy with a low of 57, then Tuesday, sunshine with a high of 86. The Great Wall has been your home for Chinese favorites since 1981. Don't miss the sesame chicken, mushu pork with Chinese pancakes, or Peking duck. Stop in at the restaurant on France Avenue and 45th Street along the Minneapolis-Edina City line, or check them out at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me tonight. You know, there was a time when I first got into the paranormal that things that were presented in front of me, I had taken as fact, like watching the television shows and stuff. When I first got into it, I didn't really stop to think that, oh my gosh, you know, this is historically inaccurate, or that is necessarily fake, or whatever else. It wasn't like I was taking it all in hook, line, and sinker. But I mean, I wasn't really sitting there being like, you know, if we're at a location, that if they're talking about people, historical people at these locations, that I would necessarily have to think whether or not they're telling the truth or not. And, you know, it's one of the hard lessons, I think, just in television in general, but with the paranormal in particular, is often when you see the locations on some of those shows that were on the Travel Channel, especially, that you can't take it at face value. And probably one of my earliest television, series that I'd watched in the paranormal wasn't Ghost Hunters, it was Ghost Adventures. And one of the earliest things I'd ever seen was an episode that was the first episode based on the Goldfield Hotel. And I've always been very fascinated by it. In fact, I've been to it, but only on the outside. I've been in Goldfield, Nevada, which is something else I'm sure we're going to be talking about here tonight. And the place has been very interesting to me for a long time. And tonight I invited my guest, who has been there and has done a lot of history on it, not only to talk about it, but maybe we could set some facts straight on it, because it's not quite as straightforward as it's been presented on television. My guest tonight is C.L. Thomas, who is a fine arts photographer, writer, and founder of Eerie Expedition magazine. She travels extensively each year, researching the afterlife, out-of-body experiences, metaphysics, folklore, and haunted history, while lecturing at events across the country. You will also have known her as the host of the Gateway podcast, and she's been on my show a number of times, and I've been very happy to have her here. Miss C.L. Thomas, welcome to GhostBox Radio.
Hi, Greg. It's so nice to see you again and to be able to catch up.
It's been a while. You've been out and about, and I'm certainly happy that we're going to be able to do this because Goldfield is, like I said in my intro here, that it for a place I've been to once and I've seen on television a lot of times, it holds a very special place for me. There's something about it that I find enchanting.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, you and I were talking about prior to the start of the program. Well, is what I want you to tell people what you told me about the stories that pretty much what we've heard on television about the Goldfield, because I think this is very important for people to hear.
Yes, everything you've heard from the paranormal world about the Goldfield, not just the hotel, but the town, is completely false. Everything.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit more in your mic. still.
I know. I'm so sorry. Maybe I need to turn up the mic a little bit.
I don't know. It's like right there. It's like it's so close to audio, but
is that better?
Yeah, that's better. That's better.
Okay. I just had to turn the mic up a little bit.
So okay. So and that's the thing, right? Obviously, I'm alluding to the in quotes famous Ghost Adventures moment at the end of their documentary where they go in the basement and literally everything moves in there, and it's like, if you took it at face value, it's the most impressive paranormal experiment ever. But all of this is not even true. Like what?
It's
like
not
what?
even true. Yeah. So I ended up meeting somebody who actually helped set that whole scene up. So the whole thing was completely false. It's a put on. It's for TV, right? So it was all staged. I was even shown how it was done. So they've actually they made the camera look like they sent this brick flying through the air. Really, it didn't. It just kind of hit some boards, and they caught that camera angle to make that fall over the way it did. But yeah, the show really did fake a lot of stuff about the happenings in the Goldfield Hotel, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the stories that came out of that TV show and that are still being believed and told. And oh gosh, there's one group that even went in there just a few months ago, and she said that she saw a brick move, and I was just like, yeah, you absolutely did not see a brick move. So yeah, it's one of those stories where it's TV. They created a lot of stories to sell a TV show on the Travel Channel, and it worked. But I do have to admit, the first time I saw that show, it really did ignite like an entire fascination with Goldfield and ghost towns in general. So I was living in Nashville, Tennessee at the time, and I saw the show for the first time, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. Not so much about the evidence that they portrayed on the show, but the town itself.
Right.
So by the time I moved to Las Vegas, that was one of the first places I beelined for, was the Goldfield. And I just wanted to experience and to research and just step foot in these towns that were on this TV show. So there is something to that to be said.
Something good about that, and I don't know. It's really interesting how a place like this, once you get it on television and you start putting out this is what this is what the history of the location is, that it follows it, and it's almost impossible to break people away from what they heard about
Yeah,
a location on television.
yeah, that's true. It's so hard to tell people that's really not the stories that's involved. It has nothing to do with tunnels and babies and wells and a woman. They say that. Well, we'll get into all of that. But the Goldfield, the real stories that come out of Goldfield is those aren't it. It's got its own history and its own people. And if you truly investigated a place, you would see it really isn't a demon in the basement. It's more about the miners who worked their entire lives, those who got scammed out of money from some of the criminals that were in charge of this place. And
Mm-hmm.
you find that yeah, the Goldfield Hotel is haunted, but the school just around the corner is way more haunted than the Goldfield Hotel. There's a house there that was owned by a newspaper gentleman that is much more haunted than the Goldfield Hotel. So it just goes on and on. There's an old jail cell there that nobody really knows about. They don't realize that this little building is an old jail cell. It was the original prison. That's very haunted. That whole little area back in there is very haunted. But you never hear about that. They all beeline for the false stories. It's kind of sad.
It's kind of sad. Now, also, because maybe, just so for the people who don't know what Goldfield, Nevada is, can you give a little bit of history on it? Because you're kind of alluding to it, which is it's a very interesting history for the whole town
Yeah.
in general.
So, long story short, it all started in Tonopah. So, you
Yep.
had two guys in Tonopah that had a gold mine, and there was a prospector. Well, he wasn't really a prospector, he was a Native American. He was a Peyote Native American. And he shows up to Tonopah with these two prospectors. Tonopah's already a town by then. It had gold mines, it had a railroad already. It was a solid gold mine going, or a gold town going on. And I think they were producing like around $3 million in today's money at that time. Um, so this Indian shows up, this peyote, and he has what we call peacock ore, and it's this real pretty, like blue and pink, with gold in it. He shows them this piece of ore, and it's really they just went nuts over it, and they were trying to figure out where did this guy get it. Well, the problem is this Native American was a drunk, and so he took the $10 from them. They tried to pay him $10 to tell them where this mine was, and he runs off and he gets drunk, and they end up not being able to locate where the mine is. Well, eventually they do find a mine, and it ends up being in a gold field. And so they went prospecting there. This was like in 1901. By 1904, the whole town was producing equivalent to almost $2 billion in today's money, surpassing Tonopah. So it became like a big gold camp, the world's greatest gold camp. That's what they called it. And people started investing in this town. And before 2005, or 2005, 1905, it became a town. It had hospitals, it had schools, it had several churches. It was just phenomenal. It blew up from just a little camp of 20 men to a town of like 20,000 people. And then 5 years later, everything's gone. So by 2000 or 1910, everything is just gone.
Is that before? Is that still before the big fire that went through Goldfield?
That's before the big fire. So the big fire hit. I think there was two big fires. One in the 20s,
Yeah.
1920s, and then there was another one after that. Both of those they suspect may have come from people who had heavily invested in the town to try to recoup their mony.
That makes
Because
sense.
they kind of happened back to back. George Wingfield, the guy who owned most of Goldfield by this time, he also owned the Goldfield Hotel. Well, that fire went through the town, burned just about everything around the Goldfield Hotel except that hotel, and then he ends up selling it. But he has a bunch of other establishments that he collected a lot of money on. And the thing that makes that suspicious is that he was broke. He owned the town's biggest bank at that time. He was investing everybody's money, and then all of a sudden he comes up completely broke by this time. So it's just interesting how this all happens.
Right. It's always interesting too of how people put their own well-being in front of literally a town of 20,000 people.
Yeah.
It's just
George Wingfield. He's the guy that he owned a Goldfield Hotel, and a lot of the paranormal kind of come up with the story of him tying a woman to a radiator. Prostitute. She has a baby. The baby's thrown down the well, or down an elevator shaft, I should say.
Yeah.
Of course, that story is not true. But this is the same guy we're talking about. He was kind of a shyster. He started out in Tonopah as a gambler, ends up meeting a senator and kind of was brown-nosing him, made a living off of gambling. So that right there already tells you that something's not quite right with the guy. He was not educated, so there's no way he should have been hanging out with a governor to begin with, or a senator. Goes to Goldfield, invests in a bank. He invests in several mines with this guy. He partners with him. He ends up with just about all of the town's money because they're putting all of their gold in his bank. So, and then I think it was 1907. They had a big financial scare where people were going to the banks and trying to pull out their money. He didn't have the money to give back to them. And so what he did was he tried to give like gold certificates and things like that as like a promissory thing, just to keep the bank open. But it's always been a little bit suspicious. Where did all the money go? And, everyone was very trusting with a lot of money to this guy.
Just a kind of an off-topic sort of question here. Why do you think that every story that is attached to a location is traumatic or sad? You know what I mean? It just seems like that there's very few places you go to where there's spirits there and they're happy and they had a good life and they're just like being in it. It's always something about, babies being thrown down elevator shafts and, it just, a bride looking out a window, a ghost bride looking out a window at the Mississippi River, that sort of thing. Why do you think that's the case? It's just, it's everywhere.
Well, it's kind of that, it's like that phenomenon when somebody posts something sad on Facebook, they'll get like 20,000 likes. Or if you send out like, oh, pray for me because, my ankle's broken, you'll get like 100,000 likes on that thing. But if you post about how happy your day is, you get like maybe 6. It kind of, think about that. So it's people like tragedy stories. It's just the same that you like crime stories and things like that. It's no different.
And obviously the thing is, and when I ask the question, folks, please know I get it, is the fact that this is the stuff that also sells on for television, which I didn't know when I first started watching some of these shows with especially the stuff with the Goldfield and Waverly Hills and places like that. But the point is that, it's there's nothing to police the truth on television, so they can do whatever they want. And this is why we have conversations like this, because people are doing whatever they want, basically. So anyway,
well, if you're looking for the woman, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
If you're looking for the woman in the Goldfield Hotel, though, there's so many disputes to that story. If you want to hear them,
I do. Well, here we go. This is what I need to do. I need to get a break in here, and what we're going to do is we're going to continue talking about Goldfield. If anyone has questions about this place, like stuff that you've heard, and CL has been really good at with all the research and stuff, it's a good idea to talk with her and ask a question, and we'll see if we can get to the bottom with the truth there. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio. on AM 950. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned, community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville.
Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Looking for something different for family fun? A night out with friends or your next team-building event? Try the escape rooms at Lilliput. Step into the haunted mansion, race to find a cure in the bunker, or survive Night of the Wolf, all with just 60 minutes to escape. It's private, immersive, and perfect for groups of all kinds. Book your adventure now, spots fill fast. Visit lilliput.net and see if your team has what it takes to escape. So, are you ready to go out for some kind of paranormal investigation coming up this weekend? Because we always talk about the Pillsbury Club, which is really awesome. And we're actually adding dates to the Pillsbury Club. So it's going to be like the next one is going to be September 4th and September 5th. But I want to draw your attention to this Saturday, which would be the 29th of August. And over at the Swenson Family Farm over by Montevideo, we are doing an investigation over there, and it is that place is off the charts. We've talked about this place before on the show. We talked about some of the stuff we found, some of the non-ghost entities that we have felt like we've got contact with. This is a lot of fun. Our investigation is this Saturday. I know it's a little ways out in terms of driving if you're in the Twin Cities, but it's worth it. It's really cool. And if you want to spend the night over at a nearby casino, they have a great hotel. I've stayed there before. Go to Chippewa Historical Society, where they have all the information on how to join us for the event. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to do one in September as well. Check that out. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to the following site, clthomas.org. There you'll be able to kind of see what CL Thomas is up to and what's happening with Erie Expeditions.
So Erie Expeditions is coming back probably in September. It kind of got placed on hold over the summer. am working out some new details with it and some new sponsors for it, and kind of taking it in a little bit of a different direction. So stay tuned for that.
That will be really cool. It's a fantastic magazine, and really think that it's something that people need to check out and read. So I'm happy to hear that it is coming back. CL is joining us tonight to talk about Goldfield Hotel. I got a question for you. Have you ever
Sure.
investigated the Goldfield Hotel with your friends, and then all of you get possessed and start wrestling each other in the hotel? Because I saw it once on
Absolutely not.
Ghost Adventures, and I just assumed that that's real as well. So
No, that
just
didn't happen. No
that
bricks
didn't
flew. None of that happened.
no bricks flew. Yeah, nope, that's good too.
No, none of that happened. I did get to play poker though with a spirit. My friends
Oh,
and I kind of sat around and played poker, and on the one of the boxes we were using, we actually got correspondence for that. That was kind of interesting.
and I'm sorry to say again, your audio quality is pretty bad at the moment. It's kind of like, yeah, if there's a way to get that and keep that near you, that'd be great.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
No, that's okay. I will say also probably one of the most embarrassing things I've ever, I've never been more embarrassed to be a paranormal investigator than watching that episode of Ghost Adventures, which was I think one of the last times I know of them going out to the Goldfield, and it really was like Zach Bagans and the other ones, along with Chris Fleming, and they all got possessed and they started like tackling and wrestling each other. And the thing that really frustrates me about that is that like people like you have been out there, you've investigated, you've researched, you're trying to set the record straight, yet you get this sort of thing happening, and I really find it hard to believe people are watching this and they're literally jumping on each other and being like, "Oh my gosh, that's really incredible. That must be really real." You know what I mean? It's just I don't get
Yeah.
that.
Well, I'm the guy that the most embarrassing moment for me is when you have a medium going in there and saying that he's getting possessed and fingers shoved up his rear end and everything else. That was totally embarrassing. That I spent and to be honest with you, it doesn't do justice to the spirits who really are around the Goldfield Hotel because it is really haunted. And it's just not doing justice to the real story behind Goldfield Hotel and the spirits that reside behind there. I will
No.
say that.
No, and you're right. I mean, you're absolutely right. And isn't that kind of the purpose of what we do to some extent? It's not all of it, but to be able to keep the truth going, to be able to remember the spirits of these locations. And it's the same sort of thing with like the Conjuring house with Bathsheba. That's also completely wrong. That's not the story, but it's something that people refuse to change or believe because it doesn't fit their own personal narrative.
Right. Well, it doesn't sell.
Doesn't
What
sell.
they've done is they created a story that they can sell. And
Nope.
that's what it comes down to.
Nope, it's very true. It's absolutely it's horrible. It's horrible. So, can you tell us a little bit about like some of the experiences that you've had in the hotel as far as like an investigator?
So my experience is I have never been possessed, first of all. The hotel is haunted.
Yeah.
I have been in contact with many male spirits in the hotel, which, I've done a lot of research on this place, and there's a story about a woman, a prostitute woman in the hotel with a baby that gets thrown down an elevator. To kind of clear that up a little bit, um, George Wingfield by this time owned a bank. He owned an entire 3-story building, and he was living in an apartment in that building. He would have most likely had, if there was a prostitute, she would have been chained up in his apartment, not in the hotel.
Hmm.
Secondly, there is no elevator shaft for a baby to have been thrown down. There's no shaft. There's no basement. There's no tunnel. You know how everyone says there's a tunnel to the hotel? That is false. There is no tunnel to the hotel that led to the prostitution area, the red light district. There is no, there's a spring that runs under the hotel, and there is a shaft there. It's a well. But there's nowhere where a baby could have fit. There's no tunnel that was transporting women back and forth. And to be honest with you, when Goldfield was opened, it was a men's club, a high-class men's club. So it would have been your bankers coming into town, exchange people from the stock exchange. It would have been investors, people like that, and no women were allowed on the premises at all. There was no woman allowed in the hotel. So everything that is said about it just doesn't line up.
Do you think that the misinformation solely started with Ghost Adventures, or has there been misinformation about that you could find about this place prior to that?
It's been prior, and I tell you why. In the 70s and 80s, there were people buying up the southwestern ghost towns, Goldfield being one of them. And what they were doing was they were trying to create an atmosphere to draw tourism in. So they wanted tourism bussed in from Las Vegas. It's only about 2 hours, not even 2 hours from Las Vegas. And there's a nice hotel there that was restored around that time called the Mitzvah up in Tonopah.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to drive tourists in. So what did they do? They created like a false, they made up all these stories to tell as tourists. None of them are factual. There's actually an entire section in the cemetery of Goldfield, and it's all a bunch of rocks that they painted like odd little things. Like there's one tombstone in there of a guy dying from eating paste. Now, where they got those stories from, it's not true. There's no one buried there. Where they got the stories from was there was a newspaper in Goldfield, which you can actually look up online. They're all posted. And there was a satire section. So it was always like, and it was always in relation to the labor. There was like a big labor protest going on at the time with the miners. So a lot of it was alluding to that. And it was actually an allusion to the guy eating paste was a miner starving to death while they're building like the Goldfield Hotel. Things like that were going on in the town. So there was a lot of satire that came out of that. And so what they did was they took those little newspaper clippings and then put it on the tombstones.
Oh.
At that time, just to draw tourism in.
Okay. So playing devil's advocate here for a second, the researchers for Ghost Adventures, they're going through to figure out like what is the history of, say, the Goldfield, and they're going to newspaper articles from back in the day, and you gain fraudulent claims that are being put out by reporters or whatever they are at that point, because maybe they're not actually reporters. I mean, to what extent do you think these shows should be doing research? Because you could be like, yeah, well, I found this in a newspaper from, the 50s, 60s or whatever. Like, if you're, it's kind of like how I said at the beginning of the show, I'm seeing what I'm seeing in front of me. I'm believing, like, should they be, how deep do they need to go to get to the truth to where they feel like they're satisfied?
Well, I think with them, they didn't really do any research.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you why, because there's other things that happen in that town that they could absolutely have run with. Like, for instance, the Earps were in town. One of them was in a gunfight in town. One of them died of pneumonia actually in town. I think it was Wyatt Earp actually owned a broth. He owned a bar in Tonopah. His brother came to Goldfield. He tried to start a bar. He didn't have the money because he was bankrupt. So he was the sheriff for a very short time, and then he got pneumonia and died. But there's a lot of stories around those two that they could have just totally run with, but instead they chose this other story for whatever reason. I think what happened was the owner of the Goldfield Hotel, they were running that story to try to get money to reopen the Goldfield Hotel, and it just never happened for them. But that was one of the stories they were telling, and I think they heard the story and kind of ran with that and didn't go any deeper. And unfortunately, I found that with several locations, not just in Goldfield, but there's several locations that are all like that.
Okay. And the Goldfield itself hadn't been when it really shut down as a hotel, from what I read, ever since then till now, it hadn't never really functioned well as a hotel again. It never stayed open for any particular period of time. Is that a byproduct of Goldfield, the town itself, because that itself is a bit of, there isn't really anything there?
I think that Goldfield was doomed even before it opened, to be honest with you.
The hotel?
It opened late. Yeah. I think it was, Goldfield was only a boomtown for a period of not even 10 years.
Yeah.
And so the first time they tried to open Goldfield, it burned down before opening. So it was a mass revel. By the end of Goldfield, you've got to remember there was a big financial scare, almost like a mini depression that happens. And then there was a big miners' strike that happens back to back. And then there was several other things that kind of divvied up, but the town was in major decline by 2007. So the miners, they weren't getting paid really. The people who own these mines, they were getting richer, and then they're building this giant state-of-the-art hotel. It was kind of like a slap in the face to the miners and people who invested in this town. They weren't making any money. So by the time it opened its doors, Goldfield, everybody was flooding Goldfield. It went from 20,000 to, I think it had less than, I think they said 5,000 by the time 2000 or 1908 rolls around. And it just kept in decline.
Okay. Yeah, interesting. And because I've driven up that path, that road that starts in, that goes in Vegas, and then you drive up Nevada, and you get to Goldfield, and then you drive up further, you get to Mitzvah and all that other stuff and whatever. Do you think there's any hope for Goldfield as a town, that someone comes in and turns it into some kind of destination, or do you think it's destined to always be this way?
You know what? I used to think it was going to be destined to be that way, but to tell you the truth, they've reopened 2 gold mines up there, and so there's a big investment going on right now. Somebody just bought the Goldfield Hotel and is turning it into apartments for miners. So they're reopening the mines and putting people to work up there. So I really do think that town's going to revitalize a little bit. It might not be like a real town, but there are people that are going to be revitalizing the houses and things there.
Wow. So it's being turned into apartments, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
So the bottom floor is going to be, from what I heard, it's going to be like offices. And then the top couple of floors are going to be apartments.
Wow.
For minor people that are working in the mines. And there's actually a bar right across the street that was open for the longest time. And that's what happened to that. That same guy bought that, and now it's a bunch of apartments. And they just built a gas station there, and some of the houses were bought up and being fixed up and remodeled. So all around the mining industry again. So it's kind of interesting. They're mining uranium and gold.
It's kind of history repeating itself then, isn't it? Just
it kind of is.
A little,
yeah,
it's
a
little bit.
Though.
Yeah,
it really is.
I'm happy to hear it. I'm happy to hear it. Why don't we? What's that?
I'm contemplating buying a house up there.
You should. You really should. And you really should. Get in on the gold. Why not, right? All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we'll continue talking about Goldfield. now knowing that it's on its way to being kind of revitalized, it kind of changes the narrative a little bit. Very interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that when we get back. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950.
Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
Greg Bakun here. I've been talking for a while about how spooky, fun, and fascinating the Minneapolis trolley tours are, but now there's big news. The Candlelight Ghost Tours now begin at the historic Pillsbury Club, a beautifully restored haunted mansion once owned by Charles Pillsbury himself. Believe it or not, the interior is nearly 200 years older than the exterior. How is that possible? You'll have to come out and find out. Before or after your tour, stop by the on-site market featuring a curated collection of handmade goods, artisan crafts, and locally inspired treasures. Perfect for picking up a keepsake to remember your haunting adventure. You'll also find exclusive spooky merchandise from Tales of the Crypt and Elvira. Then, climb aboard the climate-controlled trolley as we travel through Minneapolis' haunted hotspots, uncovering ghost stories that locals would rather keep buried. The mansion is restored to perfection, and there is no better way to spend an evening. Visit MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for tickets and more information. Moonstone Minneapolis is a queer-owned community-focused gift shop in South Minneapolis centered on curiosity, connection, and self-discovery. Explore astrology, tarot, crystals, herbs, mindfulness, and spiritual practices in a welcoming environment for all backgrounds and experience levels. Located at 3304 East Lake Street in Minneapolis, Moonstone Minneapolis also hosts makers markets, classes, and community events. Learn more at moonstoneMPLS.com and discover a welcoming place to explore with curiosity and respect. It's that time of year where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lily Putt is open for the season, and you know what that means. Lily Putt is known for its mini golf, go-karts, glow golf, jump pads, kiddie carts, gem mining, and even a new arcade. Lily Putt also has interactive and engaging escape rooms like the Haunted Mansion, the Bunker, or Night of the Wolf. Lily Putt is perfect for parties and group events. Stop by lilyputt.net for more information and hours of operation. Greg Bakun here. It's nice to get out of the Twin Cities and take some travel excursion to some great locations. Minnesota has so much to offer, which is why I love traveling down to Wabasha and staying at the historic Anderson House Hotel. Opened in 1856, this beautiful hotel offers comfortable accommodations, has a delicious restaurant, and even a speakeasy in the basement to unwind with a drink. Located next to the Mississippi River and on Main Street, there is a lot of sightseeing and shopping to do too. To get more information, go to theandersonhousehotel.com. And join us tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. So today we're on the West Coast, so to speak. Tomorrow we're going to go over to the East Coast as author Anita Ellen is going to join us tomorrow, talking about her new book that is coming out in September that is talking about the Roanoke Valley and the paranormal stuff that's happening there, like the ghosts and spirits stuff, the alien stuff, and the cryptid stuff. There's a little bit of everything. And I'm looking forward to talking with her about that tomorrow. So Anita Allen is going to join us tomorrow. Right now, we have with us author C.L. Thomas. We are talking about the Goldfield Hotel. And we are at a little bit of a, just so you know, CL, we're kind of delayed a little bit. I think with our internet, we're a little off tonight. So I do apologize. I don't know if that's on my end or what, but for those wondering why I say something and CL's not answering right away, it's not because she doesn't like me. Well, maybe she doesn't. It's more to the fact that our internet's kind of going back and forth a little bit. So
I tell you what, we have a big storm moving through, so that could be it too. It's really windy outside right now.
Oh, well, I mean, we could blame you. That's cool. So I was going to ask you, the school there, you mentioned how haunted the school is. Did you have a chance to investigate that? I've seen the school. I walked around quite a bit that area, and they were working on the school when I was out there in 2021. Have you investigated that?
I have investigated that the first year I was in Goldfield. That school, it really is haunted. It has a lot of you get a lot of kid voices and things like that on EVPs. Of course, there's a lot of kids, but you have to remember the school was built in these kind of towns. They had to have a school in order to have a post office by law. It was a government requirement, so they could not. No town could have a post office to carry any mail or anything unless they had a school built. So they built this school. The kids would work. The male students would work part of the day, and then they would go work in the mines. Most of them that could work. So you had like 13-year-olds at the school, and then if they even went at all, and then they would go into the mines to work, because why would you go to school if you can make your fortune in a gold mine?
Yeah.
That's how it was back then. There was a couple of epidemics that happened. Virgil Earp is one of them that died. There was a pneumonia that went around. There was several big illnesses that just wiped out the town's kids repeatedly. This happened in Tonopah as well. So just a lot going on around the school building.
So that explains why you're getting children voices and stuff. Because the next question I was going to ask is, do you think those are residual? But it doesn't sound like that they were.
I used to think it was, but no, because you do get direct responses from the kids there.
Wow. And I remember, I just remember walking past because they're like replacing the windows or something over there, and it looked like a cool place, but it was all gated off because it was a work zone, so we couldn't go in there. But and what an incredible place! And just the whole town, because there was so much, like, you could see where the blocks were for the land, right? So like the streets and stuff, but no buildings or anything around there. And did it have like it looked like in my picture, and I'd have to go and find it, like almost like an entrance to, like, I know it sounds stupid, like a subway or something like that. It just is that
it did.
okay, so it did have a subway. Okay.
But it was kind of it went to the train system. They had 2 trains coming into town. One of them came much later, but the one from Tonopah was a spur rail, and it came right into town to move people back and forth between Tonopah and Goldfield. By, I think, 1906, they built the other train, and that's where those things, they weren't originally there. They moved those. So that spot that they're sitting in, that's not the spot that it would have been at. So where the junkyard is, that is where those would have sat.
Okay.
Because the train station was originally at the junkyard, well, what is now a junkyard.
I just am in awe with how built out this town was, for how little it took to build it up and how quickly it took to tear it down.
Yeah.
And just, I don't know.
It's amazing and everything's gone just about. They had a big flooding that happens. They had
I'm not sure if we lost.
Out.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know if I cut out or not.
You did kind of cut out.
Sorry about that.
No, we're not holding you
crazy.
we're not holding you personally responsible for the weather where you are. Okay, just so you know. We are, but whatever.
Well, one of my favorite things about Goldfield that I discovered over the years, the original cemetery is not the Goldfield Cemetery. The actual cemetery used to be in the middle of town. And as the town grew, they thought that was a little morbid, so they hired these guys, which they actually called them the ghost ghouls. That was their real term used for them. They went in the middle of the night, dug up all the bodies, and then moved them and rearranged them exactly how they were in the original cemetery at the new Goldfield Cemetery.
That is...
So...
not unheard of, though. Not unheard of. Because are you familiar with Deadwood, Mount Mora, where the cemetery is on the top of Mount Mora? It actually used to be further down the mountain, but then they decided they wanted to build houses, and they uprooted all the bodies and moved them up the mountain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, not
Yeah.
not great. I think it's
Well,
better
the
up the
theory is
mountain.
that yeah, well,
What's
the
that?
theory with Goldfield is they think that they didn't get all of the bodies out, and they just kind of built on top of them. So some of the town is built on top of, or was built on top of them.
I believe it. I mean, and I mean, if you're digging them up at night and moving them, you're gonna miss some.
Yeah.
You're gonna miss a few. And I feel that I would believe the same thing with Deadwood as well. Like they didn't get them all. There's still some, and who knows, maybe a lot more than we think. And
Right.
isn't that also the same with Tombstone? That cemetery had moved as well, just outside of Tombstone.
Mm-hmm. I guess, I
Yeah,
mean, it makes sense. You think about a town that was a tent city starting out, and of course, you're going to have people die in mines and illnesses and things of that nature. And then where they make a makeshift graveyard, and then, they don't know that this thing's going to expand by 20,000 people in 2 years, and that's what happened.
yeah, yeah. No, it's like I said, it's crazy how quickly it built up and built, and tore down in the same way. And I will be interested to see like how quickly, like especially if it becomes very profitable in Goldfield, how quickly that whole area builds out again. I'm just in awe with hearing that. Actually, I had no idea.
Yeah, and they have their own water source too. That's another fact. So the original name for Goldfield was Grandpa, which it was actually not Grandpa, like that's how the people interpreted it, but it was actually named by the Shoshone. Grandpa, it was like a water source. So pa meaning water, grand water.
That's cool. That's cool. That's
Right.
So we have about 4 minutes left. What is your favorite experience that you've encountered, whether at the Goldfield Hotel or anywhere in Goldfield, that is like spirit related that you just really like?
There is a spirit there of a woman that I've really connected with over the years. The first time I ever been to Goldfield, I saw her, and I thought she was like a reenactment lady or something. I had no idea. And it just dawned on me, oh, wait, nobody's at the cemetery or nobody's in town that would be a reenactor. And so I ran over, saw her gravesite, saw the name, and then I just started researching the gravesite and about her. And I'm actually writing a historical fiction on her life.
Hmm.
I was able to trace her all the way across what they call the line and the railroad line. She was a prostitute that kind of traveled along that railroad line, and she was a runaway from a prominent family in Texas. Her father totally disowned her. They buried her under an incorrect name, but several times I was in connection with this spirit, and even the last time I went there, I just kind of sat at her grave. I try to visit her grave every time I go, and I did some research and found her real birth certificate. So I have her death certificate and I have her birth certificate. And again, the grave doesn't reflect her real name. And so my friend, who is a builder of paranormal equipment, she built me this thing, and it's called the Innova box. Well, she didn't build it for me, but I have one, and I was testing it out for her.
Mm-hmm.
I took
Mm-hmm.
it and I set it up, and I said, I know this isn't your real name. Tell me your real name. And, I know what her real name is. The box actually said it.
Wow.
Out of 200,000 words that this thing can say, it said her name over the box. And it was just like, I don't know. I don't know. It's just such a surreal experience for me.
You can't tell us that that's coincidence, right? I mean, it
Yeah.
just like that just would be ridiculous.
Yeah. So after I get the book written, I'm going to try to raise some money to actually get her name, her real name on that tombstone. I'm going to correct that and, get her story out there as much as I can. Of course, it's going to be a lot of fill in, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, the thing is, I mean, and that's the thing is like, somebody who has been like has their identity had been stolen in a like historically where hardly anyone actually knows who this person is, to try
Mhm.
to have them reclaim that, allow them to reclaim that, is pretty powerful, actually.
Yeah. It's a, I don't know, I can't even really describe to you how deep that spirit touched me.
I mean, and we've seen this before, and some of us all have our versions of this, where it's not you talking with spirit and spirit talking to you. It's a friendship, it's a love, whatever you want to call it, but it's more than just an investigator who got to talk to a spirit. This is, you are deeply connected.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost, we kind of experienced a few of similar, we had some life experiences that are a little bit similar, and I think that's why we connected so well. But I guess long story short, if you go to Goldfield and actually connect with the spirits there, because you can really learn a lot from the spirits that reside back there.
That's fantastic. Sale Thomas, once again, she is the editor of Eerie Expeditions, also the host of the Gateway podcast, Tuesday nights. Thank you so much for a great conversation on the Goldfield.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. Thank you so very much. We're going to be back tomorrow with Anita Allen. Everyone, have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.